late, and we are going to have the last session before the coffee break. The question is, how can we take ownership of digital citizenship? We're going to hear about this from Virginia Balseiro. She is an essential voice in this environment. And Sarven Capadisli, she is the key player in the solidproject.org project. They will be interviewed by Antonio Fumero, who describes himself as an innovation craftsman.
Sarven Capadisli, fundador de Dokieli, una herramienta que permite publicar y comentar documentos en la web sin depender de grandes plataformas. Figura clave en solidproject.org y miembro influyente del W3C Technical Architecture Group, donde se define el futuro de la web abierta. Con un doctorado en investigación sobre la web descentralizada, impulsa proyectos que ponen a las personas por encima de las plataformas y promueven una red más justa, inclusiva y colaborativa.
Right. Okay. Bueno. Test 1, 2.
Hola.
Es copresidente. Su compromiso con la soberanía digital va más allá de la tecnología. Virginia defiende una web construida con estándares abiertos. Virginia Balseiro, referente en el movimiento de la web descentralizada. Virginia Balseiro, referente en el movimiento de la web descentralizada, es copresidenta del grupo
Muchas gracias. Just
Thank you very much.
can switch to English for the conversation. Como habéis visto,
As you've seen, we like to get together once a year to slow down, breathe in, and take new energy for the new projects and the rest of the year. And we have a project represented here by Sarven and Virginia. Sarven has worked for many years to improve the web standards. The W3C, as you know, is the standardization body. And Virginia, as we tried to watch on that video, is someone who is also working with Sarven, promoting the decentralized web movement. They are both working together on Dokieli.
switch to English for the conversation. The thing is that this conversation, we already have this conversation last night. And I have some notes from this conversation just for guiding us today. The first thing I wanted to do is to get the audience involved in the conversation from the very beginning. So I have just one simple question. Who in the audience has lost access to their content on the web because the platform you are using has changed its rules, its price scheme, its legal statement or whatever? Please raise your hands. Do you have any WordPress, any old WordPress platform or whatever? Thank you. Thank you. So here we have some evidence of this, of one of the key points of the conversation with you today. That is the point that many of us as individuals, as citizens, are creating content or creating whatever we want to share with more people. And we are using the web as we know it. And we are using web technologies. We are using a lot of platforms that are built on top of these technologies. But somehow, at a certain point in the recent history of internet, in the recent history of the web, as we know it, individuals or citizens has lost their power over these kind of tools we have for creating, we have for sharing, we have for making knowledge available to the world. And my point is, why is this way? When and how did we lost this power that is supposed to be inspired by the origins of the internet? Let's use this question as a starting point of this conversation. So, please.
Yeah, that is a very interesting question. So nowadays, on the web, any of us can technically publish our own content everywhere, anywhere you want it. You can buy your own domain, your own storage, hosting service, whatever you prefer, and create a website, create a blog, and just publish your content. This is technically possible. It requires some technical knowledge as well, or some inclination to find out, or some time. It requires a privilege to be able to have the time and the skills and the knowledge to go and do all of that by yourself. As Antonio was saying, at some point, either by mistake or design, it became easier to just go and do that on platforms that provide you with the ease of doing that stuff. For example, something like Facebook or Twitter, you can just create an account and start posting your thoughts and your comments and talking to your friends and sharing different content. And that is easy. Whereas hosting your own website is still not the easiest thing. It's not rocket science, but it's also not the easiest thing. It's not just clicking a button and opening an account and you're ready to go. It does take like a process. So essentially what we're trying to do is to lower that barrier so that people can do that more easily. Because there is an advantage with these platforms that you just click a button and you create your account, you start posting, sharing your thoughts with the world. But there's a disadvantage that content, it's not yours. It belongs to those platform owners. So you lose it. You're giving away your content, your creations. So yeah, that's essentially the problem. The question as to why that happened or when that happened is a bit fuzzier. We can come up with all sorts of theories as like financial interests, agendas, capitalism. So yeah, I'm not sure if there's one answer to why, but this is the landscape that we're on right now, and these are the things that we're trying to help solve, essentially.
Sarven?
Yeah, maybe to add, I suppose we've exchanged some form of convenience to our rights, quote unquote, on the web. I mean, after all, the web has been, decentralized from the start, or intentions, and anyone can still technically say anything about any topic. That hasn't changed. What changed is like a series of events and world events, politics. So there's many different forces acting on it. It's a new medium, if anything. We're still at the very early stages of this new media. If you compare this to like print media, it took centuries for it to sort of reconfigure society. And while we're right now we're looking at the web or even internet in a microscopic way, I think we don't have the full perspective to actually understand it, how things have evolved in this way. So same with all the other media. I mean, like electric media, anything from telegraph to TV. I mean, when TV or the radio came, people started behaving differently in their communities. They would sit around and listen to the radio show, or look at the TV in a group and have a conversation while that thing is happening. The web and the internet is also different ways of interacting with this society. As Virginia said, it's not like there's a single thing as to what caused this, but I think the importance is to acknowledge that this is a different medium, and getting a sense of how that is forming us, shaping us. Perhaps stand back and looking at it and reflecting on, like, what is this? What are the affordances or effects of this? And maybe go from there, because we can have a technical discussion about, like, how it works, or which actors were in place and what time, like what they did, but that still doesn't, I don't think, have a broader perspective on what we're dealing with. Again, we're like 30 years, I can't count now, but into the web, maybe another 75 years for the internet, whatever. It's a really short time. It's hard to make a sense of what that is. You can look at how the web has transformed our interactions, our social interactions. It's a tool, but it revolutionized everything, information and our laws, how we move around the globe and everything, how we rely on the tools, the technologies. So who knows where that's actually going in 50 years. Earlier, there was discussion on integrating the technology into the human biology and whatnot. And with the web, it's like it's hard to see where that's going. But reflecting on the medias, I think, is a good start on maybe some of the answers.
Okay. So being that the situation, what can we do as citizens, as individuals? I mean, in terms of digital sovereignty, that is the motto for this year's edition of the Empodera Life, what can we do as individuals, as citizens, for reclaiming back such a power, such a capacity for owning the media we're using for creating, we're using for sharing, we're using for interacting with other people, we are using for living on a daily basis? What can we do? Is Dokieli an answer or an example?
Let me give context to what we're working on locally, but maybe even just before that, we need to keep in mind how the web sort of kicked off, right? The first web browser it wasn't just a browser; it was a browser editor, which you can still use this. But it's called the World Wide Web browser, and by Sir Tim Berners-Lee, and that allowed us to edit the content and write to the server directly on the changes to the document. We did not need to create an account somewhere, third-party service and whatnot, as we're accustomed to right now. But you were able to do that in the browser. But over some time, the right aspect, the dimension, sort of downgraded or even maybe disappeared, and directly in the browser. So that gave kind of a birth to these services that requires us to create an account, at XYZ, in order to store our photos or documents or or social interactions at all these different services, and they're all, of course, speaking their own language as to how to shape your content and what tools, what interfaces you can use to actually access the data. Now I'll just skip to Dokieli because there's a long history there. But what Dokieli is an authoring and annotation tool. It's a client-side editor. It's much like it's in the spirit of the first web browser. It is an application, and it essentially lets anyone to sign in with their own online identity and web ID, perhaps. And the tool discovers where the user stores their storage. And so it has no, in its sense, has no knowledge, determined or pre-configured knowledge of where you should have your identity, online identity, or where you should store. So each one of you can, sign into this, saying that this is where my web ID is, this is where my storage is, or I have a bunch of them, and you can store your documents and annotations that way. I suppose, in a way, what we're after is really to enable people to go back to the roots of the web, is where anyone can create their own content and control their own content. With that comes a lot with, licensing, how you, express yourself on the web. For example, if you go to service A, like whether it's Facebook or Twitter or some other service, they restrict you on what you can say about yourself and what you can say about what content. And that's not interoperable, or it's not reusable anywhere else. In a way, with Dokili, what we're trying to do as well, the content creator has the complete right or creativity over their own creation, and they can determine where they store this content, as well as who can access it, or how they protect this content. So I may create an article on my website, and your annotations can be stored wherever you want on the web. And in no way I have any right on where you choose to store that thing. And that is a choice that you have as a web citizen, or if you will. And it's an important right for everyone to self-publish or control your own content. Of course, that's not the end of the story, because we need to, there's a social system that's on the web that we need to interact, so we need to figure out how we can share our content.
Okay, great. And what can anyone in the audience do for us to start using Dokili? How can they use this tool? How can we use this tool?
I would say the first thing that I would encourage everyone to do is to look for different ways. Dokili is one way, in one of the things that you share online. If you're writing blog posts, if you're writing any sort of content, try it out, get a solid pod or any sort of storage that you prefer and try it out. You can try it out without signing in. You don't need to actually be signed in. You can also use Dokili, download your content to your computer and save it there. You don't even have to store it anywhere. So you can try it out. But also, I would encourage everyone to, as the title of this presentation is Seize the Means of Digital Production, is take back your power over the stuff that you produce. That is not an easy challenge, because it requires us to find out a lot of stuff that is not easily given to us. It's not information that is, the processes are not simple. But just consider and think about all the different things that you put out, that you produce, your creativity, your expression, your identity, and how you could find alternatives to own it, to be in control of this content and your identity and your vacation pictures, your comments, your thoughts, your opinions. Yes, and with that comes also the web itself has empowered people to actually be all of us are content creators, right? It's not just the people that are bloggers or journalists or YouTubers. All of us are constantly creating content online. And this is great because before the web, we were more passive consumers of media. We were watching TV, we were reading books, but not necessarily being heard. We have the possibility to be heard. So I think that the next step for us is to take that and own it and be in control of that and not just give it away to corporations or platforms that then, everyone, a lot of people had their hand up when the question was have you ever been locked out of your own content because a platform changed its rules? that can happen. They can take it away any day. Like the platforms can go away. The Dokili lets you take your stuff wherever you go, even if you don't want to use Dokili anymore, even if the app goes down. You will always have your content. And I think that looking for ways to do that in every area that you produce content in your life, I think that would be the thing that I would like to encourage people.
I think that that's one of the key points here, because what you are stating resonates a lot with the words from our founder,
Yeah.
Yolanda, this morning, in order to have the people empowering themselves. And this is probably changing the perspective. I mean, we have to reclaim back the power we originally have with this kind of technology that is the web itself. And the other thing that is still associated in my mind to your words are the words from Monique this morning, talking about humanizing the internet again. And I think that that's the different perspective of the same thing. I mean, we are talking here of a way of having this power back to the people, to the individuals as citizens. And in some way, this is a tool for humanizing the internet from some perspective. So, do you think, or what did you learn from this movement of decentralized internet, on how can we really change the way we introduce a new technology on the community? I mean, how can we use this kind of tools like Dokili? I mean, I'm talking about Dokili as a case study or a use case for this approach. How can we, or what can we learn from Dokili on the way we have to approach this implementation of a new technology or new decentralized approach to the internet within a community, within the society as a whole? It's a tricky question. It's just kind of a moonshot for having the conversation more open to have the audience getting into it.
I think that I can only answer that question, I think, as a technologist. I think that as developers, we need to, like, what I think is important for us and guides us is to try to develop or strive to have always the good, like the common good in mind, and don't do harmful things. Don't build technology that is harmful. I see technology as a means to an end, or like many ends. To get to that end, we sometimes take shortcuts. I think that it's important not to make the problem worse, or in the way to solve one problem, to create a bunch of other problems, which is essentially the situation that we're on now. On the way to make tools that let people share their thoughts and their pictures and their comments, we have also asked them to give up a lot along the way. And yesterday we had an open conversation with lots of different people, and the common thing that everyone kept raising was like they had no idea where their data is anymore, or who they given it to, or how to get it back, or how to delete it. It's almost impossible to track where you left your digital footprint, so to speak. I think that to answer your question from a technologist perspective, I would say that we need to always have that in mind, to not do harm when we are building the technologies that we're building.
That's a loaded question. I guess there's different ways of slicing it. There's a technical part, and some of that touches on standards. And that doesn't necessarily have to do with technical or web standards even. Although we have organizations that are working very hard, like W3C, to define those standards, like how we communicate on the web, and perhaps more importantly, based on what principles are we actually building these standards and the implementations and the tools that are based off those standards, and that is in a way the value that that we put into it. So what kind of a web do we want? What kind of a society do we want? And always usually starts with the principles. If we are aligned with the principles, then at least we're in this general direction of where we want these things to be. The web is in a way a reflection of the society, and there's a feedback loop. How we want the web or what happens on the web affects our lives and vice versa. And so the standards gets us to a point, but web standards or internet standards are optional. They change all the time. They're not static. Those that show up to or have the privilege to show up to voice themselves, to say this should work this way and that should work that way, and the implications are huge because that affects many people's lives, right, across the globe. So so it's not one actor. There's people working on standards, and there's people implementing it. There's policymakers. For example, user agents, right? The web browser. What do we want? What are the duties of a user agent? And when we look closer, we can come up with things, right? Like we can say, well, I want to, as a user or as a group, we want to be able to trust the user agent, the web browser, because I don't want my web browser to do things behind the scenes and report every click I make or who I messaged or any of the interactions, right? I want it to protect me, to let me know, okay, this is a dangerous website, or maybe let's go further. Like, there's a need to web browser or a tool like Dokli even to help us identify the signal from noise better, which hasn't really been baked into the architecture of the web initially, but we still, we have a lot of lessons here that we can improve with. So, for example, wouldn't it be cool to have this, oh yeah button, right? You read something and you click a button somewhere in your browser because you're wondering, I'm not sure if 1 + 1 = 3. I'm going to check with my little tool that I trust to help me, give more context into what I'm reading, or who made that claim, under what context, or what is the source, how authentic it is. Can I check for logical fallacies? What are the citations and so forth? And so, and that's a way of, in a way, empowering the consumers as well as the content creators, right? Because as a reader or a consumer, I can navigate the web and better distinguish between my trusted assistants or whatever, to help me evaluate the things that I'm looking at in a way that's suitable to my understanding of the world or my profile. And as content creators, we can improve the quality of the content. It could be more towards universal access in the sense that it's both human and machine readable, so help the machines to understand the content better so that the tools that are based on structure and whatnot can, of course, in the end, help the human make sense of what they're looking at. So it's a bit complex to split.
It was a tricky question, but that's great. I think we have 5 minutes left, so let the audience make some questions. If you have any question, we have time enough for a couple of them or 3 of them, maybe. Jan?
Thanks a lot. So I'm a YouTube content creator. What do you think about YouTube and the dominance of video?
Are we recording?
As a consumer, I'm a big fan of YouTube. I think we were talking actually about this last night, how the way that we use the web is a little bit of a reflection of the way that we use the old media. So I see that YouTube and Twitch or other streaming platforms resemble TV a lot. I think that we look at TV as like the guiding path or something. That is interesting because that happens a lot with other types of media online as well. We have blogs, which are essentially what newspapers or books used to be. We have YouTube and streaming platforms, which are essentially sort of a reflection of what TV used to be. I don't know if I have a particular opinion on whether like some form of content creation is like more expressive or better, or it should be done differently. YouTube as a platform where you put your content has its issues. It's convenient. You can create an account on YouTube and a lot of people will access your content easily. It will be indexed, it will be findable. You get access to a big audience. That is a convenience. It has its downsides. You're giving away a lot of control over the content that you're putting there. I would encourage every content creator to self-host their content, even though you lose a lot of those advantages. I think it's a friction that we have to go through all together as a community, because we have the power, we are creating these contents and they are like benefiting from it. We need to benefit from it. We need to take control over the content that we put out. Because we are the ones generating all this content. Like you are generating this content with your creativity and you shouldn't give it away. But it's not easy because at the beginning it's going to be like, I think somebody mentioned yesterday also an example, like I can as a person, as an individual, choose not to use a certain platform. It will cause me a lot of social friction, right? Like if I choose not to use WhatsApp, I will find it difficult to talk to a lot of my friends who are not in other platforms or in other services that I prefer, that I find more secure or more private, or I prefer to interact in. With choosing not to put your content on something like YouTube, you will go through a lot of friction. But if more and more of us do that, if we build a collective movement, we will be stronger. And you can see this in a lot of grassroots movements across history. It started with a small group of people, and as you become like more and more people, there is strength in numbers. So I think that we have to put up that fight and we have to like resist as a collective. Because that is the only thing that is going to give us our power back, essentially.
Can I add something to that? Not strictly about YouTube, but nobody needs to ask for permission to publish anything on the web. Well, it doesn't matter what content it is, whether it's videos or articles or pictures or social interactions, period. Like, you just don't need to. You get your own, as Regina already mentioned, if you want to put content on the web, there are ways to do that, accomplish that already. Like, it has been around for 30 years. That what changed the world, right? So definitely don't need to go through third parties to share content, and definitely don't need to agree to the third party terms of service to share that content. There's the technical ways to discover that content and share it. It's all there. It's possible. The other thing is what's baked into the architecture of the web is the URI or the URI or URL, if you will, these addresses, and there's a notion of ownership. Whoever owns the URI, the URI, this dictates what that resource on the web means, and you shape the first publisher of that URI, putting it on the web has a value, and the owner of it indicates, well, what does it mean? Is it a video? Like, what is it a video about? Or is it a scholarly article? And what does it say? And this is what I want to tie into the perhaps controlling and self-publishing content on the web, where as researchers, academics, scholars, we have the means to, the web came out from a need for information system at CERN so that scientists can exchange their findings and connect these different hard drives in a way. Yeah. And that's been possible. And to be a scientist or to contribute to science or humanity does not require us to go through a third party to share our findings. It never did. And if anyone, of course, we're in a system where we have to hop through third parties either by paying or waiving our copyright, or we have to pay additional fees for open access, right? And that's not necessary because you can get you get your own web space and publish unlimited number of articles, scientific articles, if you wish, and you can do it under 100 euros or whatever a year, where you contrast that with, for example, a publisher. Commercial publisher would charge for a single PDF to be put on the web, which is not even machine readable, and so on. So and all these other things about whether it's archivable, whether it's certified or credible, are orthogonal things. Putting something on the web does not mean that it is accurate or credible, right? That's a separate thing that needs to be looked over or layered on top or alongside. Because I can put something, and you can say, well, there's something wrong with your math there. We need to,
I think,
look at it differently.
It's a key point, and we can close here the session with this point, because I think it's important to have the people understanding that we have the technology, we have the tools, we have the means, and we need us as citizens, as individuals, to reclaiming back this means, this power, and to empower us with these tools. So thank you very much, Sarven, Virginia, for sharing with us Dokilia and your project and your vision on how to humanize the internet again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias. Hasta luego.